friends! Welcome back to my channel. It is the end of March, and as I like to do every month, let's do a reading wrap-up of what I read in the past month. So I will explain to you a bit what the books are about, I will give you my thoughts and how I rated them. And I have to say this month I read more than usual. So let's go. Friends, there is one thing that I forgot to tell you about. In this video, I will talk about a lot of dark romances. So I wanted to do a little disclaimer warning if you're not familiar with dark romances. So I do tell you in the video which are dark and if you need to check the trigger warnings, because dark romances have heavy themes like mental health related. It can be depression, grief, traumas, sometimes on-page violence or other themes that are really hard to read, and also characters that are very dark themselves in their morals. They do fucked up shit, they are not always likable, so just be careful if you pick them up that it's going to be for you, that you know what you're getting into. If you have questions, please let me know. I will be glad to give you more information about the dark content of every book if you want to get into that but are unsure. So yeah, if you're used to dark romances, this is not anything new for you, but if you're not used to them, I just wanted you to know that so that you can proceed with caution. Let's now go back to the video. We started the month strong with the Hannaford Prep series by Bree. So this is the omnibus. It is a 4-book series. You have Just Drop Out, Make Your Move, Play the Game, and To the End. It is a why choose bully high school romance. It has dark content, so please check the trigger warnings before getting into it. So you follow Lips, who's starting high school, entering the Hannaford Prep, and she's being admitted to the school with a scholarship. She's the only one there with a scholarship. All the students there come from rich families, and she has a rough history, a rough background, some criminal activities. I won't tell you much because it's the fun to discover what it's about, but just know that she has a rough past that she's trying to escape, and to achieve her objectives, part of her plan is to go to that school. So when she starts school, she starts to make also enemies, and that's where she meets the guys and the girl that kind of bully her at first. And then we follow the evolution of their relationship and all the things she has to do to escape her past. I was scared at first to start this because it's a high school romance, and in the first book she's 15 years old. But let me tell you, the story covers 4 years of their life. So it starts when she's pretty young, but it ends when she's 18 years old. And it's a bit more towards the slower burn side. So you see the relationship grow in a kind of slow but delicious pace. Overall, this series was a 5 stars for me. I rated individually the first 2 books 5 stars and the last 2 books 4.5 stars. But you guys, this was amazing. I adored it. I ate it up. It was so fun. It was super exciting to read this. I adored the hell out of it. What I like the most about it is the characters and the evolution of the relationship between them. Every time they were together, it was tasty, it was delicious. I adored their interactions every time. The side characters were amazing, the humor was so good. The main female character, Lips, in this was my favorite type of female main character. She's kind of a bit grumpy, but very badass. She's also a bit dramatic, and I loved her violent side. And she was kind of very true to her values, whatever was happening. Like, she was pulling through and doing what she had to do, non-obstant what was happening or how it affected her. She did what she had to do, and I love that so much about her. And I also like that she was feeling a lot but didn't want other people to see it or see any kind of weaknesses, so she was kind of very self-conscious and putting a strong face in front of everyone, but at the same time we knew how much she was feeling and was being affected by everything. I just adored her to pieces. Quite frankly, if you've read the Bonds That Tie series by Bree, it's a fantasy one though, but if you've read it, you might really enjoy this one because the characters and the interactions between the characters had the same vibe, I feel. It was excellent in both of those series. It was a why choose, but as with the Bonds That Tie series, it wasn't overwhelmed with spice like we could expect from a why choose. There was spice, obviously, but it was not overwhelmed with spice. And even though it wasn't a perfectly woven story and it sometimes left me wanting more, or I felt that there were some gaps here and there, I completely didn't mind because everything else was amazing. These characters, their relationships, their interactions, their dynamic was so fun. And there was still very good twist in there. The author kept surprising me. There was action, there were twists here and there. I had so much fun. And there is a 5th book related to that series. It's called Make My Move by Bree, and this kind of retells the story of the 2nd book, but in the male character's POV. I haven't read it yet. I kind of want to savor it because I'm already missing these characters so much. So I'm waiting to get to it, but I will certainly get to it probably next month. Like I said, these characters were amazing. Because I forgot to tell you, this is written in first person and only in Liv's POV. So except for one chapter every book where you get one of the main male characters' POV, you just get Liv's POV. And then I read We Will Reign by Rachel Leigh. This is the first book in the Wicked Boys of BCU series. It's a planned trilogy. Only the first book is out for now. It came out in March. This is a dark white shoes college romance. You follow these characters in college who are in this kind of society. The female main character is named Riley, and Ridge has been obsessed with her. He has been tasked by the society to kind of uncover the mystery behind a murder. And from the first time he sees her, he becomes obsessed with her. So he has kind of a bit of a stalkerish vibe. And Ridge also has a kind of weakness where he has selective mutism. So when he's really anxious, he cannot talk. So he's been following Riley and being obsessed with her without being able to approach her and talk to her. It is told in first person. You get the POV of all the main characters. And please, please, please check the trigger warnings for this. There is multiple trigger warnings for this book, and you get kind of a dub-con situation between the main characters. So please check the trigger warnings before getting into this. Okay, so I really, really, really wanted to love it, but sadly I didn't. I gave this book a 2 stars, and I think it's a generous 2 stars. I hated most of it. I'm sorry. It really wasn't for me. There were a lot of things that threw me off that I wasn't really vibing with. First, there was the white shoes aspect. Probably it's meant to be a white shoes throughout that trilogy. But in this first book, it felt very much like a love triangle, and it was very messy and very uncomfortable. It's really not what I'm expecting from a white shoes normally. It made me feel so uncomfortable. And the female main character was amplifying that feeling, trying to put a wedge between the friendship of the 2 guys. Is that the expression, putting a wedge? Well, she was trying to fuck up their relationship. And it made me feel so uncomfortable, and it made her so unlovable. I don't know, and the characters in general felt very incoherent. They were saying one thing at one time and one other thing the other time. Especially the female main character, she didn't make sense at all to me. Also, the story started very abruptly, and we didn't get to know the characters on a personal basis, or like individually, before getting already thrown into the story and the action already starting. So it kind of threw me off, because I like to feel connected and get attached to characters, to feel them grow and to see their feelings grow, and I didn't get to see that in there. Okay, and this is a dark romance, so it was meant to be dark and a bit twisted, and I get that, and I was here for it. But one of the main male characters, who was supposed to be probably like a hot psycho, felt to me more like a creepy, socially unadjusted guy. He totally didn't get the female main character, in my opinion. It felt as if he was reading her so wrong. So he felt very creepy and made me uncomfortable. So I didn't like him. And one other thing, like I said when I summarized the book, these characters are in a society, but I will be frank with you, I totally didn't get what the society was about. You get kind of some information, but I'm still very confused. So I don't know if this will be more explained in later books, or if this was already explained in a previous series of the author in the same world, and maybe I should have read that first. So it led me to not care, because I completely didn't understand it. And lastly, one other thing that really threw me off in that book, it's the first time that this happened to me. And I feel kind of betrayed by the author with this, because I don't want to spoil anything, so I will just say that in a scene, there was something that the author made us believe. But with what happened after, I felt betrayed because of that scene and how the author delivered it to us. It probably doesn't make a lot of sense, but I will say I felt, as a reader, not like as someone very invested in the story, as a reader, I felt betrayed. So yeah, sadly, I didn't like this book. I've heard many great things about other books from this author, so I've been intrigued by her for a while. But with that book, I don't think I'm gonna try other stuff from her, sadly. It really didn't work for me. But I heard that other people really liked it, so with what I said, try it or not, depending on if that appeals to you or not. Then I read Golden Eyes by Maya Banks. It's a Scepter novella. This book here is called Wild. It has 2 novellas in it, Golden Eyes and Amber Eyes, so I only read the first novella. This is a Scepter romance written in third person. You get dual POVs, but mostly the main male character's POV. So the story is that you follow Aliyah. She's a cheetah shifter, and she's being chased by hunters in the mountain. And then you have Duncan, he's the sheriff, and he hears that there's illegal hunting in that mountain, so he goes there. And then he found Aliyah in her cheetah form. He doesn't know know that she's a woman. He just saves her and brings her back to his home, and then suddenly she changes into a woman. So we realize that he saved a woman and not just a beast. It's a very fast burn romance. It could be expected since it's a novella. And I have to say, I bought this in a used bookstore a while ago on a whim. I read the blurb and it looked fun, so I bought it. It was written more than 10 years ago, and you feel the age of that romance. I don't know how to explain it, but it feels like something I would have read a while ago, but that you don't see anymore in romance nowadays. I don't know, the vibe, the female main character was very tame, I want to say. Her personality was very tame. It felt like she has no personality at all. She was very behind the action a bit, if it makes sense. The spice was kind of okay though. I will not read the second novella, but overall I gave it a maybe generous 2.5 stars because it wasn't so bad, but left me very neutral. So yeah. And then I finally finished my listen of the audiobook of Atlas Paradox. I've been on this for months. I listened to the first audiobook. It was interesting. It left me wanting a bit more, but it was entertaining enough to continue with the second book. So if you don't know about this book, it is told in third person. You get multi POVs, and the audiobook, by the way, is done by a full cast, and the narration is really, really good. So if you're interested, I highly recommend the audiobook. It's really well done. It is kind of a fantasy academia. We follow these 6 characters who are kind of chosen to go into kind of a secret society, Alexandrian library kind of thing. They get chosen for their specific powers. In the first book, you follow these 6 characters through that first year in that kind of society. And in the second book, you kind of follow what happens after that. The magic system is super unique and very, very interesting. It's kind of mixed with physics. So I have to say, I'm not a science person. I didn't understand everything that was being said in this, for sure. But the first book was very kind of character driven, and we got to know each of them, and their personalities were very, very interesting. So in the first book, I had a lot of fun discovering them and discovering that world, and it really expands in the second book. So overall, I feel it was well written, although there was a lot of information that I would have skipped. Very heavy on the informations with the past of the characters and their thoughts and their reflections. It's very heavy on that, but I still felt like it was well written and it was an interesting story. It wasn't my thing, so overall I rated it personally as a 3 stars because I still feel that there were great things in it, but I'm not going to continue it further on. But I'm not mad that I listened to it. And then I read The Scepter. This is a prequel novella to the Mortal Fate series. The first book is not out yet. It's going to be the Crown of Oaths and Curses. It's going to be out in April. And there's another prequel novella called The Sword. I haven't read this one yet. So this is a dark fantasy romance, but it's a prequel novella, so it's kind of an introduction to that world, to these characters and their past. So you follow Rook. At the beginning of the novella, there is a traumatic event that happens, and then you follow her through that journey where it leads her. There is magical powers, but we don't have much info on that yet. I rated this one 4.5 stars because overall I think it was well written and it did what it was supposed to do, in my opinion. It introduces us well to the characters, to the world. It had enough intrigue and mystery to kind of pick our interest and make us want to follow the story and continue in the series. So it was quick, it was interesting, I was hooked, it did what it had to do. I will continue with the other novella and I'm excited to start the series when it's going to come out in April. And I'm slowly starting to really love Bree's books, so I'm sure I'm gonna love the following books. Then I read Moon Touch and Star Curse by Elizabeth Briggs. These are the first 2 books in the Zodiac Wolves The Lost Pack series. It's a shifter romance. It's written in first person and you only get the POV of the female main character. So in this story you follow Ayla. She's a half shifter, half human, and she's been rejected by her fellow pack mates and her family since forever because of that. And the story starts when she's becoming of age. She goes to this ceremony to become a real shifter. She's going to have access to her wolf, being able to shift, and maybe find her mate. And then at that ceremony, she gets rejected by her mate, and after that she gets to meet the main male character, Caden. He is the alpha of a banished pack from the Zodiac Wolves packs, and then you follow their story. So I will say this is more towards the slow burn side without being a pure slow burn. It was kind of a fun, fast read. There were enough interesting and unique elements sprinkled throughout the story to make me want to continue the series after the first book, and there were really great twists in the first and second book. There was also a tidbit of diversity. I appreciated that. So I rated these first 2 books 4 stars. They were interesting, they were fun, but then I started the third book and kind of got bored a bit. Like, I'm enjoying the series, but at the same time there's something missing for me. Like, it's not grabbing me by the emotions, by the gut. There's a bit of a connection missing. I'm still enjoying it. I think I'm going to continue it, but after the first 2 books I I was kind of ready to move towards something else for now. So it was enjoyable, it was interesting, great shifter romance, not amazing, but still enjoyable. And then I went on to one of my most favorite read of the month, Unhinged by Onley James. This is the first book in the Necessary Evil series. It's told in first person, you get dual POVs. It's an dark romance. You follow Adam, who is in a family of psychopaths. There is this scientist who kind of found these kids that were diagnosed as psychopaths. So the scientist kind of found these kids, adopted them, and raised them and trained them to be killers, to be assassins, and to go kill the criminals that kind of get away of the justice system. So these are kind of morally gray vigilantes. So each of these men will get a book in the series. In this one, you follow Adam, and Adam one night is being cornered by Noah, who wants to avenge his father that Adam killed. And right before Noah pulls the trigger, Adam makes Noah understand that his father was really a bad guy and that he had a reason to kill him. So then Noah is kind of thrown off and just leaves. But then a kind of obsession grows slowly between these two. I won't tell you too much what happens after, but if you like dark romances, you really should read this book. It was so good. I had such a blast. Adam was such a dark character, but at the same time, such a sweet cinnamon roll for Noah. I love these two so much. Noah was kind of the sweet guy that can tame the beast that no one else can. He was the only one able to calm Adam. Okay, and Adam was so cute and funny in his kind of bluntness, totally devoted, obsessed with Noah, and not really misunderstanding the social constructs, but not really caring about them. It's hard to explain, but it was so funny and cute with Noah. For example, Noah lives in a trailer and Adam just goes to his trailer and Noah is like, "What are you doing here?" He's like, "Well, I'm here to sleep." And Noah is like, "Well, don't you have a house to sleep in?" And Adam answers, "Well, you're not there, so that's why he's there." And for him it makes total sense, and Noah is just, "But we don't know each other so well." It was amazing. And the humor in this is so good. I kept laughing. The dynamic between the brothers is so fun. Everything was fun about this, I'm telling you. It's a fast read, it's very entertaining, it's very cute, it's very fun. I felt so hard for these characters, and it's surprising because it's not a super long book, but I enjoyed the hell out of it. At first I gave it a 4.5 stars, but I don't know who I was back then because I'm totally giving this a 5 stars. It was really fun. I highly recommend this book, and I'm dying to continue this series. And then I read Little Fire by Hollee Mands. This is the first book in the Warriors of the Five Realms series. It is told in third person, you get dual POVs, and it has some triggers in there, so please check the trigger warnings. It is a fantasy romance, and it's an open door romance, but you don't get too much of spice, and it's not super descriptive. So we follow Evangeline and Declan. Evangeline is a human. Declan is a archmage, which are these very powerful beings that have magic and that are immortal. So at the beginning of the book, something happens where they are stuck together in another realm and they have to help each other to get out of there. So you get a kind of forced proximity situation. And the interaction between the two characters at the beginning is very funny. I think the author used kind of that clash between the two characters so well because she's human and he is very powerful and immortal, so kind of some human preoccupations are kind of very far from him. So sometimes he's kind of a bit exasperated by her human traits, but it's so funny. I love that very much. And with the main male character, I love that he was a mix of powerful, immortal, cold being, while at the same time being a cinnamon roll for the female main character. It was exquisite. And that man really had the best quotes. He was so cute. Their romance was so cute, so touching. It is also a really great world and magic system overall. It was very interesting, and the twists in this book were really well done. I didn't see one of them coming, and I feel that the author really kind of wove it well in the story. It made so much sense when it happened. I like when there's a twist and a reveal and that you think back on previous events in the book and how well it was done, and it makes you love the book even more. That's what happened with this. So overall, I really enjoyed it. I gave it a 4.25 stars. There is a second book and a novella that comes after that. I will get to them. I really enjoyed it and I want to continue the series, but at the same time, when I finished this one, I wanted a change of mood, a change of decor. So I went to other reads, but I'm planning to continue. Then I got an arc for Two Best Men by June Harding. This came out March 31st. This is an romance. It's a standalone. It's told in first person and you get dual POVs. In the story, you follow Cameron and Red. Cameron is a graphic designer and Red is a professional video game player slash professional streamer. It's an age gap story and a dislike to lovers. So these two guys, as the title says, are the two best men in a wedding. So they kind of have to work together to help prepare this wedding. They dislike each other very much at first, and then things slowly evolve. I have to say first that June Harding has a kind of writing that is very unique to her. I feel that every time I pick a book from her, we kind of have a new perspective on a love story. It's very interesting. Her writing is very flowing. She knows how to write build-ups and tension. And in other scenes, non-romance related, I'm thinking about two situations where there's kind of a build-up and it was so well written by June. It was as if I was there. I was on the edge of my seat reading this. Her writing is very effective, very good. And I really love the fact that these characters felt very real and raw. They weren't perfect and it was okay, and it fitted really well in that story. And something else I really enjoyed and appreciated in that book is that there was a lot of diversity and also representation. One of the main characters is autistic and pan, and there was a non-assuming of heteronormativity in there, and I really appreciated that. It was a really fun, very sweet read. I really enjoyed it. I gave it a 4.5 stars. And I read so much this month. Okay, next I'm slowly reading the Brutal Birthright series by Sophie Lark. I read Savage Lover. This is the third book in that series. This is a mafia dark romance, so as always with dark romances, please check the trigger warnings. Although this one is kind of a soft or lighter dark mafia romance. So if you've never read mafia or dark romances, this is a good one to start. But I would start with the first book of this series, which is Brutal Prince. It's a series of standalones, but it's more enjoyable read in order. So in this one, you follow Nero and Camille. Camille is a mechanic. This is one of the things I really like in this book, that Camille is a mechanic. I don't know, it was just so cool. I like that about her. So at the beginning of the book, Camille goes pick up her brother from a party where he's not supposed to be, and they get pulled aside by a cop. Camille's brother get in trouble for something with the police, so Camille kind of covers up for him not to be in trouble. And then that cop makes a deal with her that she's to be his mole, and she has to go investigate kind of these gangs. And Nero is a member of this Italian mafia family. He has known Camille for many years, but has never been interested in her. And then suddenly, when she strangely gets more and more into his world, he becomes a bit interested in her. So it's strange because I don't have anything super specific to say about this book, but I really enjoyed their romance. I really enjoyed this story overall. As of now, this is my favorite in the series for now. We'll see with the other books, but it's my favorite of the three first. I really love these characters and their dynamic. I love how their romance evolved. I don't know, I just really love Camille and Nero. Other really great things about this book, there was no third act conflict, there was no miscommunication, there was action, there was spice. I don't know, I just love them and I love the story. It read really fast, it was very flowing. I really enjoyed it. I recommend it. And I gave it 4.5 stars. Then I finished the audiobook of Prison Healer by Lynette and Noni. This was narrated by Jeanette, Illidge. It is the first book in the Prison Healer series. It's a YA fantasy. It is told in third person and you get only the POV of the female main character. So in this story, you follow Kiva. She's the prison healer. She has been in the prison for 10 years. We don't know why, and it's very mysterious why she's here and what her past is. So throughout the story, you follow what happens in the prison, and also you slowly get to discover a bit more about that character and her past. And you meet a new inmate, Jaren, with whom she's going to develop a romance. I have to precise though that the romance is very much a subplot. It's almost non-existent, so don't go into that story expecting a lot of romance. It's more about the intrigue, the mystery, and I have to say this whole world and this story in general was very unique and very interesting, and the mysteries were really well done. So many twists that I didn't see coming. It was super interesting. So I was left feeling a bit wanting more because I do love romance and tension, and there wasn't much in there, and I was missing a bit of connection with the character, a bit of a kinship with her, but it was very good, so I would still recommend that series. I'm not sure I'm going to continue the series though, because I know I'm not going to find everything I'm looking for in a book in the following books because of the romance aspect mostly, and because it's a YA, the vibe is kind of a bit different. So quite enjoyable overall. I gave it a 4 stars, and the narration of the audiobook was really well done, so I would also recommend the the audiobook. And then I read the first 2 books in the King series by T.M. Frazier. I read King and Tyrant. So these first 2 are kind of the first duology. You follow the same couple, and after that the following books follow other characters. It is a dark romance. It's told in first person and you get dual POV. As always with dark romances, check the trigger warnings, and in there are a lot and very on-page heavy stuff, so please check trigger warnings. So in this story you follow Doe and King. Doe woke up a couple of days earlier and she didn't remember who she was. She woke up in an hospital, she was heavily hurt and she didn't remember what happened, who she was, and there were no search warrant for her. No one was looking for her. Nobody knew who she was. The police couldn't identify her. So then things happen and she finds herself in the street fighting to survive, and she meets another girl that suggests her to go to a MC party to kind of go offer herself to one of the bikers there in exchange of protection. And at that party she finds King, who is not part of that motorcycle club, and she gets in trouble with him, so he kind of decides to keep her. And King just came out of prison after 3 years, so he's kind of a bit broken, trying to adjust to coming back to his life. So I really enjoyed these 2 books. The writing was so good. It's hard to explain why, but I just love the writing so much. I'm really eager to read other books from this author. The romance was really good. It was a bit twisted, as to be expected with dark romances, so beware of that, but I really liked it. It was also really hot. The spice was really good. And this book destroyed me. It made me feel so much in many aspects. I cried. It's been so long since I cried in a book, but I did cry multiple times. And the first book focuses more on the romance part and kind of slowly building the mystery. And in this one, you get the unsolving of the mystery, so much twists and turns. I really like what the author did with that kind of mystery and intrigue. It was really good. I'm gonna think about this for a long time. I have to say one thing though, that is not gonna be super precise, so do with this what you will, but there's a trope in there that I really dislike, but the way the author used it was not too bad, and I cannot tell you what it is because it's going to be a spoil for sure, but it's the only thing I didn't like about it. It's that specific situation. So yeah, overall I give these 2 books 4.5 stars. I highly recommend them if you like dark romances. It's very underrated. I haven't seen a lot of people talk about this, and I'm really intrigued. I'd like to read the other books in that series, but at the same time I don't know where they're gonna go, but I'm intrigued. And we ended the month with a guilty pleasure of mine. I read Highest Bidder by Sarah Kate. This is the 5th book in the Salacious Players Club series. This is a spicy romance series. It is written in first person and you get dual POVs. So it's a standalone series, and each book in the series focuses on one specific kink. And this one is kind of a pleasure dom, daddy, brat kink. And there is age gap in this, and it's I think the highest age gap I've ever seen. It's a 35 years difference. In this you follow Daisy. She's a waitress in the Salacious Players Club, and Ronan, who is a billionaire and member of this club. And one night Daisy makes a bet with her friend, and if she loses she has to offer herself at the auctioning happening in the club that night. And of course she loses, and guess who auctions for her? Ronan Cade. One thing you need to know about this series and about Sarah Kate's writing, well, Sarah Kate is a wonderful writer in my opinion, and since I began this series, I always describe Sarah Kate's writing as emotional spice. Yes, it's very spicy, it's very kinky, but at the same time, it's not just an erotica novel. It is way more than that, and it's hard to explain, but there is so much emotion. I felt so much in this book. It's very much a romance as it is spicy. The spice doesn't put aside the romance. It works with the romance. The spice also serves in the character progression, in the evolution of the story. The spice is woven into every part of the story so that it makes sense. It's not just there for effect. It serves the story and makes it so much more beautiful and enhance the romance. I have to say, at first, I didn't know if I was going to be into that age gap situation. I didn't know what to expect, but I have to say I was not disappointed. I'm rating this 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. It was not my favorite in the series. I don't think anything will beat Praise, the first book in the series for me, but Highest Bidder was super good. I really enjoyed it. It was emotional, it was touching, it was fun. It explored new things that I haven't seen in books before. Ronan was just the cutest, the sweetest, and as every other books in that series, the side characters were really fun, really enjoyable. All of these side characters feel as their own person. They feel fully developed. I don't know if that makes sense, but they don't feel as if they're just there to feel a whole somehow, and you get attached to them. So yeah, I had a blast. Sarah Kate has yet to disappoint me. Highly recommend. And that's it. That is all for my reading wrap-up of March. If you have questions, please put them in the comments. And tell me if you've read any of these. Let me know your thoughts. I'd like to exchange thoughts with you. And as always, if you feel like it, please like and subscribe. And I will see you again in the next video. Bye!